Hello, everyone, and welcome to Comic Talk, where we talk about our favorite print medium and shine a spotlight on our favorite comic book artists and writers. Joining us today from the upcoming You Look Like Death, Tales from the Umbrella Academy, please welcome writer SHAUN Simon.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing, SHAUN?
Very good, thank you.
How are you doing with staying inside and kind of, being indoors right now?
It's kind of perfect for a writer, honestly.
Yeah.
You don't have any excuse not to get stuff done. So I'm getting a lot of stuff done.
Good. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So let's dive right in and talk about your backstory a little bit.
Sure.
Was writing for comics something you've always wanted to do, or was it something that
No.
you just kind of fell into?
No, I never even thought about writing until much later on in life. After I was like, hey, maybe this is something I can do, and then realizing, well, yeah, you can. You just have to kind of do it, But I kind of grew up skateboarding and in bands, and the same thing with bands. It was like, if you want to be in a band, you can do whatever you want. You just have to put the time into it. So when it came time to write, you just need to put the time in, and that's what I ended up doing after reading a lot of the old Vertigo stuff and realizing how much I kind of fell in love with that stuff. And that's where that kind of came from.
Nice. So speaking about, reading a lot of Vertigo and all that, who are some of the creators that inspired or influenced your writing style?
I started with Grant Morrison. That led to that whole Vertigo era of Peter Milligan and Neil Gaiman, and from that I went back to Watchmen and Frank Miller and all that kind of stuff. I never got into necessarily mainstream comic stuff. I was never a Batman, Spider-Man kind of guy. The stuff that was kind of more on the fringe always interested me.
Nice. That's kind of like me too, so I get that.
Right, yeah.
What was your first big break working in comics?
That was the first Killjoys that Gerard and I did. That started off as our own thing, and then led to kind of spilling over to his band, and then eventually coming back to the comic as kind of follow up to what he did with the band.
Now that was a sequel to the My Chemical Romance album Danger Days.
Right. Yeah.
So was it challenging to create a sequel to something that was presented in like another medium?
No, I don't think so. I think it was fun, and anytime Gerard and I get together, it's just a good time, and we just have fun, and I think that's why we work so well together, because we just kind of feed off of each other, going back and forth. We've always done that, even back in, it's funny. I was writing yesterday. I started writing an afterword to the Seance book, the You Look Like Death book, and I kind of went back into that whole time period of the band, and he had his band, I had the band I was in at the time. We shared a studio space, and we just had a good time. And one of the things that we always did was we would just make stuff up, and we always start off, well, what happened was, and then we just go off into this whole kind of wildly inaccurate ways of things happening. We just made shit up, and that's how we make comics today. I mean, we go back and forth all the time, and what's interesting about that, what's inspiring about that, and that's how we kind of work.
I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now you guys announced Killjoys at New York Comic Con in 2012.
Right.
I've been in New York Comic Con. It's crazy. It's hectic. There's so many people. So what was the experience like to announce a new comic at a convention as big as New York Comic Con?
I think I'm not one for crowds. I like staying in the background, and that's what we kind of did, right? I mean, we kind of go off in these little rooms and booths and talk to people, and then you make your way through the crowd to get out.
Nice. Now you have a new story coming out with the Killjoys called National Anthem.
Right.
What can you tell us about that?
So National Anthem is our original idea. It has nothing to do with the band. It has nothing to do with what the band did in the videos they made. you know, the main character is not Gerard, it's Mike Milligram. It's going back to the original inspiration that led to the Danger Days record for Gerard and his band. It's a very different story. It's kind of set in the past. It takes place in the 1990s and 2000s. There's no future. So it's interesting. It's more of a ground level take on the story.
I like that because the original set in, I think, 2019, right?
Right. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of like the prequel to that a little bit.
Right. In a way. I mean, like I said, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same story. And it's a weird thing because that was one of the things we talked about. Like, how are we going to roll out with this when people already are so familiar with the original? And that was kind of interesting to us about it. Like, this is not what you've seen before. This is an entirely different version of this book, of this story, of these characters. And that was really exciting for us.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about You Look Like Death. This is the first Umbrella Academy spin-off series, and it's centered around Seance, which is Klaus.
Right.
Where did you get this idea from to give him his own series?
That was Gerard. Gerard, you know, again, going back to this afterword that I was writing, and I feel like a lot of that is going to be a lot of like just the transcript of this interview, maybe. I remember sitting in his parents' house back in like the winter of 2005, and up to this point, you know, I had known Gerard very well, and I was on the road with him, and before that we were in bands together, and there was always this other side to him that it was like that, you know, him on stage is one thing, and that's a big part of who he is. There's this other side of him that people weren't seeing. So I'm sitting there, and he brings out this sketchbook, and he starts showing me these characters that was going to be the Umbrella Academy pitch that he was going to send to Dark Horse. And it just hit me like, oh my God, this is now, people are going to get to see this side of Gerard. This is the Gerard that I know in hotel rooms and in cafes and drinking coffee, and just, it's a different side to him. It was so exciting. So it was, you know, basically my favorite comic that didn't exist at that time. So a few years ago, he came to me and he was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a spinoff. Would you be interested in writing a book about Klaus? And I was like, absolutely. And he was basically, you know, the setup is, this is 10 years before Apocalypse Suite starts, and Klaus is about 18 years old. Hargreaves kicks him out of the house, and he's kind of left to fend for himself in the city, and he ends up in Hollywood, and it just kind of takes off from there.
Now, what was it like having written with Gerard before and then coming back and then working with him again on like something completely different? It's been a while. Like, did you just kind of like flow right into it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the thing about him and my friends is that, you know, we always stay in touch, and even if we don't, when you do get back in touch, it's like you just pick up where you left off. So it was just us having a good time again, going back and forth and texting ideas to each other, and putting things together and throwing these ideas around, and then kind of taking that and turning that into what this story came to be.
Now, in Killjoys, you wrote some of the, or created some of the characters, and then Gerard created some of the characters. Mm-hmm. Are you doing kind of the same thing where you're creating or getting the opportunity to create characters for Umbrella Academy? Yeah.
There's a whole bunch. I mean, you know, obviously you're gonna see some of you're gonna see Hargreaves, and you're gonna see some of his siblings. Other than that, it's a whole new cast of characters in the Umbrella Academy version of Hollywood.
Very cool. Now, are there any Umbrella Academy characters that you'd like to explore further in different spinoffs?
I mean, that whole thing, the way he set that thing up, what him and Gabriel have there is, there's endless possibilities to do things in that world, and it's very exciting. And you know, I hope that there's more. He could do a spinoff for anything basically in that world, and it would be kind of exciting to see. That in between in between phase of when they're kids and when Apocalypse Suite starts and everything in between. So there's endless stuff to see there.
Now, is there one character that you kind of gravitate towards within the Umbrella Academy?
I think it's absolutely Klaus. Yeah.
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 What kind of drives you towards him?
I think he's, on the surface, he comes across one way, but when you start getting deeper down, like there's a reason he's like this. And there's a reason he kind of hides really what's going on behind this veil of, I don't give a shit and sarcastic and quick to come back at you. But really, you look at his childhood and which we do get into in the book a little bit, and it wasn't a good time for him,
Very much so.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious because I've seen both seasons of Umbrella Academy at least 5 times. I'm kind of obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on the show? And does it influence You Look Like Death at all?
No, it's interesting because we were well underway with the scripts on this book before the show even came out. So I feel like they're two very different things, while also being the same. But they are different, and I feel like Klaus. There are definitely a lot of similarities between comic book seance and TV show seance, but they are two different people. I feel like, and I think you'll see in this book that I think people will see that, and also they'll see both sides. They'll see how they're kind of the same, but also how they differ as well.
Very cool. So I'm really interested in it because the show, I think, gives you an idea of kind of a different look at the Umbrella Academy because there's some similarities to the comics.
Right.
So is that something that you kind of enjoyed seeing, or?
Yeah, it was definitely cool to see. I think they did a very good job on expanding what Gabriel and Gerard had done in the comics. So that it was definitely cool to see. I started watching the second season. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know what they end up doing in that. But I liked the first season. I thought it was great.
Okay, no spoilers. I won't say anything.
But it does not influence what the comic is. No.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, well, awesome. Well, issue 1 of You Look Like Death, Tales from the Umbrella Academy hits comic shops September 16th, and issue 1 of The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys National Anthem comes out on October 14th, both from Dark Horse Comics. So be sure to stop by our friendly local comic shop and pick them up. And now it's time to get to know Simon a little bit better in a segment we call Rapid Fire. So for Rapid Fire, we're going to learn about some of our guests' first and favorites. So are you ready?
Sure.
All right, first up, what was the first comic that you read?
Grant Morrison, Doom Patrol.
Oh, good one. I'm watching that show right now. Good show.
Yeah.
What was the first comic shop you visited?
I don't know. I'm sure it was one when I was a kid. I'm not sure where. Somewhere in North Jersey, I would imagine.
Who's your favorite comic book character of all time?
That's a hard question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
No, there's a lot.
No, there's too many. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your favorite super? Do you have a superpower that you think is really cool, or?
I don't really like superpowers that much, to tell you the truth.
No.
I don't think that's where the stories come from in books.
I like that.
Mm.
Can you elaborate on that?
I don't know. I mean, it's not all right. So it's not something that I would think about when putting a story together necessarily.
Gotcha.
I would think about the character more than any kind of power they have.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense with, not being drawn to like the typical superhero kind of.
Right.
Comic.
Sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, who is your favorite artist or writer?
Like I said, I kind of got into this through people like Grant Morrison and Neil Gaiman and Peter Milligan and that whole crew. you know, same with the art from that era too. You know, obviously Frank Miller was a big artist that helped me kind of get into it. Frank Whiteley, stuff like that.
All right. Outside of Umbrella Academy, do you have a favorite comic or TV show or movie?
Probably one of my favorite movies is Fisher King by Terry Gilliam. I love Terry Gilliam stuff. Right now, probably that's what I would say.
Okay. And then last one, if you had Klaus's power, what dead person would you, or who would you communicate with? Sorry.
I don't know. Interesting. I don't know. Probably not someone famous. Probably just like some random person from like the 1800s, just to see what was going on back then. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know.
Is that what's your favorite like time period if you had one? Do you have one?
I don't. You know, I really I really love like the New York City era of like the 1970s and early 80s when it was kind of dirty and shitty and stuff. Like it seemed real, like really real back then, you know?
Oh yeah.
No.
All right. Well, thank you for that rapid fire session, and we're coming to the close of our show. But before we end, let's go around and do some plugs. Sean, is there anything that you want to promote, and where can people find you at online?
Yeah, like you said, the Killjoys national anthem is coming out in October. You Look Like Death is coming out in September on Dark Horse. I have a book called Electric Century, who I wrote with Mikey Way, coming out. I don't know when, but it's a graphic novel from Z2 Comics, and Toby Cypress is on art, and he blows my mind, and that book's going to be very cool. As far as online, I have a Twitter account. I don't mess around with online stuff too much. I can't really get into that stuff, so I just promote stuff. That's it.
Well, sounds good. I can't wait to have those comics come out. I'm super excited, if you can't tell. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
That does it for Comic Talk. I want to thank our guest for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, we do this every Friday at 4 p.m. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you get notified whenever we go live. And every Wednesday's PREVIEWSworld Weekly, also at 4 p.m. And you can find us by checking out PREVIEWSworld on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And stay tuned right after the show for a sneak peek of You Look Like Death, Tales from the Umbrella Academy. Until next time, remember, not all heroes wear capes, but right now there are a lot who have to wear masks. Stay safe.